James River Association brings a whole depth of environmental education, information, teaching, science, stuff like that. So now it's more than just an experience when we partner with them in school systems or groups, but they're teaching the why behind of it. So now we're on the water, but what's underneath the water, and how clean is the water and clear is the water, and it's pretty cool when we get to partner with the JRA.
Thank you for listening to America's Healthiest City on Mike King Biz Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to America's Healthiest City. I am your host, Will Melton, CEO of Exponent 21, the sponsor of this program. And today I have Shep Roeper, the Executive Director of Beyond Boundaries. We're going to introduce Shep in just a minute. But before we do, I just wanted to give a plug to americashealthiestcity.com. If you're new to this program, please go visit that website and check out our ideas board where folks from across the community, including young people, have submitted their ideas. We encourage you to consume those ideas, leave your comments, and really think about all these small ways that we can work together to make our community the healthiest in America by 2033. This is a community partnership. We have to do it together. We cannot succeed if we try to do it alone. So please join us in this cause. And without further ado, I will introduce you folks to Shep Roeper. Thanks, Shep, for coming on with me today.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to talk about everything that you've got going on because I think that for a lot of folks, the busyness of the day allows us to immerse ourselves in our own world. And there's a lot of stuff going on out there. A lot of folks who can't do things the way that we can do things, and we don't necessarily have those people top of mind unless we're somebody like you or somebody who's involved in Beyond Boundaries. So I'm excited to talk about that. But before I do, I want to kind of give folks a background on you. I have recently met you, so I don't know as much. So we'll start out. When did you come to Richmond? Have you been in Richmond the whole time? Or?
I have, yeah. So I grew up in Hanover, and I went to school, graduated from Radford University. Spent a little time after Radford in California, and then moved back and have been back to Richmond ever since.
Cool. And that drive to Richmond, are you still hanging out in Hanover? Do you have family, friends, folks up there?
Yeah, kind of all over. My wife and I and our son, we live in Richmond. We live in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So what's your favorite thing about living in the city?
How many outdoor opportunities we have. The James River specifically. Fishing. Yeah, everything outdoors.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that it's out yet, but there's going to be a really, really, really cool campaign coming out for the Richmond region. For tourism later in June, and as you talk about the James River, that's definitely a key feature of that campaign. So, so keep an eye out. That was actually something that was done by Richmond Tourism and Padilla. And I can't say anything more about it because it's not out yet. But everybody loves the James River. We all, again, take for granted sometimes the opportunity to get out there, and I think folks are feeling that a little bit now that the that bridge is closed down on the one side, and people are kind of upset there about that. So let's talk about access to the river and what that means for Beyond Boundaries.
So Beyond Boundaries, we just try to increase access to really everything outdoors, the river being a huge component in our programming, from paddling to boating, a little bit of tubing, swimming, fishing, stuff like that. And access could mean a lot of different things. It could be getting groups from a neighborhood that's fairly close to the James River, just to the river, and being able to recreate there. It could mean physical adaptive equipment to actually safely recreate or kayak or raft on the James.
Okay. And talk a little bit about, if you would, the communities that you serve, because some folks, maybe jump to the conclusion that access is about physical barriers and things like that, but that's not the only thing that you're covering. Can you talk a little bit about who you serve?
I can, yeah. About 70% of the groups we work with are individuals with disabilities, so it could be it's kids and adults, could be physical, cognitive, or developmental. And the other 30 is kind of evenly spread between underserved youth, substance recovery programs, and veterans. And you're right, access can mean physical access, for someone who might be blind or vision impaired or uses a wheelchair for a number of reasons of getting, on the river and safely having fun. But it could be financial, and a lot of times it's financial. It's a very expensive place to play and experience, and not everyone has the means to do it or do it as frequently as they should.
So you're obviously very passionate about being outside and connecting with nature and with the gifts that nature has to give. Tell us a little bit about what motivated you to get involved with, with recreation and specifically with people who are underserved.
Yeah. I've always loved just playing outside. I was definitely that kid who just, I love team sports, but I love just kind of, going out in the woods and exploring. So, it really wasn't until my time at Radford that I found that recreation and then therapeutic recreation, so outdoor rec and therapeutic rec were even options you could major in and then build a career around. So that's kind of when I got introduced to those opportunities through great staff at Radford. And then after I graduated, went out to California and started interning and then starting working for a company who kind of pioneered outdoor adaptive recreation in California in like the 60s. So really fell in love with how they facilitated, what they did, the groups they worked with, the atmosphere, the inclusive atmosphere that they provided. And then my co-founder, Kyle Burnett, was behind me about one semester, worked out there as well. We both moved back to Richmond and really wanted to volunteer with something like that. And after research found that there really wasn't many options for that, really any at all. We know how beneficial and therapeutic being outdoors can be, and we realized there just were a lot of groups that weren't being served, and that's where we started.
So maybe we'll go a little bit deeper on this one because Richmond, the show is all about making the community healthier, and you identified a gap, and you brought it. Have you ever thought about why something like this exists in California and maybe other parts of the country, but in a place with this rich outdoor amenities like Richmond? Why did that gap exist? What was it that we were missing as a community, and what lessons might we learn from introducing something like that and other gaps that might exist out there?
Yeah, I don't know if I could speak too much on like why we didn't have it and other places did. I think you got to have a pioneer somewhere. Someone's got to start it, and then enough people see the benefit. Hopefully, that word spreads and the idea spreads. I do think that the adaptive technology that's come out in the last decade has really increased a lot. Adaptive sports is really on the rise because of new technology is getting people to do things that maybe they couldn't before. We kind of had to rig things up to make it possible, I think that Richmond's put a lot of energy into their outdoor spaces with their local parks, with the Cap Trail, with the James River, the cleanliness, the recreation, just everything all around, and really trying to, I would say like Richmond is really known for breweries and restaurants and recreation. So I think that recreation, really draws a lot of people outside of the city or outside of the state to our city and state, which is cool.
Yeah, I lived here in 2003, and I was on campus at VCU for a semester before I decided to hightail out of there and do something more productive with my life. My brain needed something different, but Richmond was a different time. It's a different time back then. Folks said don't go north of Broad. You won't end up well if you go there. And maybe the James wasn't the place that people thought of. Aside from hanging out on the rocks.
Right.
At Hollywood Beach. But we there were things about it that I loved. There was a guy who used to sell hot dogs, and his wife had this stuff called the sauce. And it was like a mix of salsa and relish or something like that. But he used to sell hot dogs right across the bridge from Belle Isle, and that was like my thing that I loved. But I think it's definitely changed. I think people are definitely seeing that nugget of a gift and saying hey, we want to be there. And by the way, I can walk to it, or I can ride my bike from the furthest place north in the north side down to the river in about 10 or 12 minutes or so on my bike. So it's really accessible for those of us who have full physical ability. Before we keep going, I just want to pause here and just remind folks that we have Shep Roeper here from Beyond Boundaries. He's the executive director. You are listening to America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1, part of the Mike King Biz Media Network. This is a 10-year community partnership to make America the healthiest, make Richmond region, the entire region, the healthiest in America by 2033. So, Shep, let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on in the community, because we talked about who you serve, we talk about kind of what you do, but you have a lot of partnerships that make that possible, and I want to make sure that we give those folks some visibility for the good work they're doing.
Yeah.
And talk about, all that it really goes into making what you do possible.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. We've been around since 2014 was the idea, 2015 with the IRS approval for nonprofit status. And the way we've grown has been two big components of that have been through volunteers. And we're always looking for volunteers to help out with our programs and community partnerships. And that's really allowed us to kind of grow in ways that we wouldn't have been able to as fast. So when we go rafting on the James, we go with RV Paddle Sports, which is amazing. They have a lot of gear, expertise, guides. They do commercial rafting trips, and we partner with them for rafting. Indoor rock climbing, we go with both Triangle Rock Club and Peak Experiences, which is great. So we've got local, we try to look at everyone as friends and collaborators rather than competition. Even in the adaptive space, a similar organization to ours is Sportable, and we don't cross over on a lot of our programs, but the ones that we do, we partner with rather than compete. So it's, community is all what it's about. And we couldn't have the impact that we're fortunate enough to have without a supportive community.
Now I know, the James River Association is, responsible for a lot in the community. Kind of how do you work with them? What's their role in facilitating access and all that?
It's great. We get on the James on boats a couple different ways. Kingfish Boat Club, which is out of Osborne Landing, gives us a membership to use their boats, which is amazing. Get people out, out of Osborne and Rockets Landing to see the James. James River Association brings a whole depth of environmental education, information, teaching, science, stuff like that. So now it's more than just an experience when we partner with them in school systems or groups, but they're teaching the why behind it. So now we're on the water, but what's underneath the water and how clean is the water and clear is the water, and it's pretty cool when we get to partner with the JRA.
So obviously, health is encompassing a myriad of categories of individual and community health. One of the things that you're doing for folks is giving them a release and some mental benefits. Can you talk a little bit about the impact? Maybe you have some stories you can share, but at the minimum, kind of an anecdote around how does this work, drive engagement in the community for folks that maybe not have it, and how does that materialize and driving a healthier community?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of benefits to our programs. I tell people all the time, we go rafting, go fishing, go hiking for a few hours, but beyond that, it's you feel a part of the community. We're known as the River City. And then if you're not on the James River or can't access it, do you really feel part of the River City? So we're trying to make sure you do and make that connection. We create a very inclusive space by getting volunteers involved, so then we can have fun and recreate and socialize, but also see people for more than just a disability. See them for all the layers that we are as humans. And then from a participant, and really I think most of our volunteers feel like this because they're typically hobbies they like to do. From a participant standpoint, it's therapeutic to be outside. You work on confidence and get out of your comfort zone, and you work on communication and teamwork, with paddling together, or work on confidence with rock climbing, communication, talking. As you start to empower yourself through having fun, then that bleeds into the rest of your life. Maybe you are more apt to go apply for a job, and maybe the volunteers who are there own a company that maybe you'd be a good fit for. So I think the impact goes way beyond the end of our program for everyone involved.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's something that I maybe hadn't thought that much about, and everybody that's in the nonprofit space thinks about constantly is the volunteer opportunity. It's not just necessarily something that you need, but it's an opportunity for folks that want to get involved. And so let's talk about that, because I know that's a huge need that you guys have to make what you do possible. So we talked about your partners, but how do volunteers get involved? Tell me a little bit about some of the volunteers that maybe are involved, and are they longtime folks, or are they kind of come and go? How does that play out in your world?
Yeah, we've got a wide range of volunteers. We've got volunteers who, we get new volunteers every year. We've got some that have been involved since 2015. We've got your volunteers who volunteer once a year, and then those that volunteer once a week. So we've got a wide range. A lot of volunteers they come to us two different ways typically. They really love the activity that we do. So we have anglers who want to come fishing, or people who love hiking trails, on those activities. But then we also have volunteers who are very specific to the groups we work with. They, have a brother with Down syndrome maybe, and they want to come out on whatever activity we're working with the Down Syndrome Association or Autism Society or something like that. So, a lot of social ask is what we do. Just come out, hang out, be friends, and talk and have fun. And then there's some physical ask depending on the activity. Adaptive rock climbing or adaptive paddling, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, volunteers, big need. You obviously can't do it without money as well. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But let me take a quick.
You're listening to America's Healthiest City on Mike King Biz Radio Network on ESPN Richmond 106.1 and Choice 105.3.
Thank you for joining us. You're back here with America's Healthiest City, and I'm your host, Will Melton. We've got Shep Roeper, the Executive Director of Beyond Boundaries, and we're talking about what it means to make outdoor sports accessible to folks that may not have the ability or the means to do so. So talking about means, how do you guys... what do you need on the money front? Like, obviously, there are costs associated with running this program. You've got people you pay. You've got equipment. Like, tell us a little bit about how the economics work, so people understand where their dollars are going when they support you financially.
Yeah, we get fundraising or income like most nonprofits from general donations, fundraisers, and grants. Typically, grants are a big portion. But what we fundraise for is for opportunities to be at little or no cost for our participants. It's a very expensive place. Like you said, there's a lot of gear. There's a lot of trainings that go involved for our staff and volunteers to be able to safely do this. Insurance, there's a lot of, permits, stuff like that. So there's a lot of cost up front to make these opportunities possible. And we try to make sure that very little of that goes over to the participant. We typically say that if there's a financial challenge and that's the only challenge that we have, we'll make it happen. So we try to really kind of fundraise for that, so the direct dollar goes to the experience.
And the overall just general flow of things. Do you find like a lot of nonprofits, you get a lot of people that are kind of given at the end of the year? Do you find that you need that to be more spread out, and you need support more evenly throughout the year? Kind of what kind of needs might folks want to tune into so that they can better serve your organization if they believe in what you're doing?
Yeah, I think we historically have the end of year giver that they're trying to do something before December 31st for sure. But then we also host or we're part of a number of different fundraising campaigns. We've got one in March we call March Matchness, and we try to play off the basketball theme of try to get every dollar for dollar matched, which is great. We were part of a great one last year called Mustaches for Kids that happens in November. So that's another one that also has a lot of matching opportunity. So we try to we have our annual Rimby Festival fundraiser. So we try to spread them out every few months because it does take a lot of money to kind of make them possible throughout the year. And we do operate 12 months out of the year. And last year we did 200 trips almost and worked with over 1,700 participants. And so a lot of that is between like the May and September months, but we do a lot of indoor rock climbing and colder hiking months as well.
So let's dive into Rimby because that's coming up really soon. So
Yeah.
when is Rimby, and tell us what Rimby is.
Sure. So Rimby, it stands for Right in My Backyard, and we want to highlight all the cool, fun, unique things that Richmond has. This will be our 4th year putting on the Rimby Festival. This year it's going to be at Hardywood, the Richmond location, Sunday, June 4th from 12 to 4. It's a free, family-friendly festival. Coming out for food, for drinks. As of now, we've got over 30 local vendors setting up games, activities, prizes, makers, stuff like that. So it's going to be definitely something you can engage in. And I think we got about 10 more on the hook that might be there as well. So it's going to turn out to a really big. We got a band that plays. Mackenzie Rourke is coming out to play. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I actually was maybe up too early flipping through my phone, and Laura from Laura's Botanicals actually reached out to me and became a follower of Richmond Water.
Okay.
And suggested that I ask about it. And
Yes.
if you'll have Richmond Water, we'd love to be a vendor.
You got a table.
That too.
You got
awesome.
a table.
Awesome. Great.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how does that work? Is it really just there to have fun and get people connected to what you're doing? Are you looking for more vendors at this point? Are there still opportunities to get in there?
Yeah, we're kind of on the tail end right now of vendors because we still have to set up the site map and everything. But we're looking for people to come engage, even if it's for ideas for next year's festival. The idea is it gets us a platform to share with new people in the community what we do and how to get involved. We do obviously love to collect some fundraising dollars that day to help more programs. But really what it is, it's right in my backyard. We want people to know how special Richmond is and how many other nonprofits are doing great work in the community and how they can get involved with those programs. So we encourage you to come out to learn more about us and everyone else that's doing cool stuff.
And Hardywood's a good partner. I know that they are very well aligned to the community, and their values are driving a lot of great stuff here. So
we actually had our very first fundraiser before we did our first trip ever at Hardywood. So it's nice to bring it back in, and they have been amazing supporters.
It doesn't hurt that their beer tastes great.
It doesn't hurt at all.
So we've got a few minutes left here. So what I want to do is give you an opportunity to share, anything about yourself and maybe what's coming up that's maybe a little bit out of the norm, or is there something about what you guys are doing that maybe folks don't really grasp all the time that you kind of find yourself explaining over and over again that you want to kind of plug here at the end?
Yeah. So we're always trying to, do a little bit more programming. We're growing with our participants, with our groups and our staff. We're actually piloting a program in Roanoke. We've extended into Roanoke with veteran programs right now, and we'll see how it's been going great. We'll see what, is on the horizon for that. I think the biggest thing is how do I help when I volunteer? We do a disability inclusion training for our volunteers to walk through scenarios and give thoughts so that to make sure that their mind is at ease and they feel more confident and comfortable showing up for day one. And we really just encourage, most people are like, oh, that was awesome. That was fun. I can't wait to come back. So if you're at all interested in volunteering, we would absolutely love for you to reach out.
Well, I'm definitely going to do that, and maybe you can answer another question on that front. So I've got a team of folks here in Richmond, and we do, like to find opportunities to get out. Do you welcome teams from companies, and what kind of different ways are there to engage at the corporate level? Yeah,
that's great, and I'm glad you brought that up. We've got social groups that come out and want to do volunteering together. Businesses want to bring their staff, give their staff a half day off, do stuff like that. So it's as simple as reaching out. We'll have a conversation. What are your goals, timelines, stuff like that, and we'll make it happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about that. I know my team will be excited about it. We've got a lot of folks that are lovers of the outdoors.
Nice.
As we are wrapping up here, I do want to give people the chance to find where they can reach you out there online and otherwise. So why don't you plug how folks can find you?
Website is beyondboundariesrva.org, and then both Instagram and Facebook is Beyond Boundaries RVA.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate you joining me today. This is exciting. Every single way possible, we're going to get involved because I love what you're doing. And again, sometimes out of sight, out of mind, and it can just take one moment before we're in somebody else's shoes like that. So before we go out, I just wanted to invite you all to visit americashealthiestcity.com. And if you represent a business, a nonprofit, a academic institution or government agency that wants to see our community become the healthiest in America, or at least just a lot healthier than we are right now, please consider becoming an ambassador. It does not cost you a thing. We only ask that you put your strategic decisions through the filter, which says, how will this make our community healthier? We don't audit you. You don't have to report to us. We just ask you to think a little bit differently so that we can all go there. There are opportunities for ambassadors to connect with one another and for us to help you tell your story about how you're working to make Richmond the healthiest city in America. So please join us, americashealthiestcity.com. I'm Will Melton. This is Shep Roeper. We're out. Thanks so much.